Number if you don't want to go to the nursing home. Get a job. Let me tell you about the day I stopped being invisible. The day my husband told me to get a job or accept the nursing home, I smiled. Not because I was weak. Not because I was broken. I smiled because after 37 years of marriage, I finally had my answer about who he'd become. And trust me, that answer was worth every humiliation I was about to endure for the next 2 hours. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Here's what nobody knew. I had $340,000 sitting in an investment account under my maiden name. Money I'd earned, saved, and multiplied over 15 years through freelance consulting work I did from our home office, while everyone assumed I was just keeping busy. Financial analysis for mid-sized companies who didn't care that I wore drugstore reading glasses and worked in sweatpants. They cared that I could find inefficiencies in their operations and save them 6 figures annually. I earned between $8,000 and $12,000 monthly. I had done this quietly, methodically, while my husband Richard climbed corporate ladders, and our son Trevor married a woman who measured worth in Mercedes models and square footage. Why did I hide it? Because early in my consulting career, when I first mentioned making decent money, Richard had laughed. Actually laughed. That's adorable, Diana. A little hobby income. He'd patted my hand like I was a child who'd earned a gold star. So I stopped mentioning it. I stopped depositing money into our joint account. I wanted to see who they'd be if they thought I had nothing. Turns out, I'd married a man who could look his wife of nearly 4 decades in the eye and say, "You're becoming a burden." That morning started ordinarily enough. I was reading at the kitchen table when Richard came down, already dressed in his golf clothes. Retirement suited him. He'd become softer, more self-satisfied, like a cat that had secured its food bowl for life. "We need to talk about your situation," he said, pouring coffee. "My situation. Not our retirement or our plans. My situation." "What situation is that?" I asked, though my pulse had already begun its slow warning thunder. "Diana, you're 62 years old. You contribute nothing financially to this household. I've supported you for decades, and now Trevor and Melissa are concerned about—" He paused, recalibrating his words. "They're concerned about the burden you'll become as you age." I set down my book. "Burden. Don't be dramatic. They're coming for brunch today. We're going to discuss options. Melissa found an excellent assisted living facility. Very reasonable. Or," he smiled, and it was the smile of someone offering a gift. "You could consider getting some kind of job. Part-time retail maybe. Something to contribute." I was 62. Healthy. I hiked 5 miles 3 times a week. I'd published 2 articles on operational efficiency in industry journals last month alone, and my husband was suggesting I stock shelves or accept a nursing home. "I see," I said quietly. "I knew you'd understand. They'll be here at 11. After he left for the club, I sat in that kitchen for a long moment. Then I went upstairs, showered, and dressed in my oldest clothes. Faded jeans with a frayed hem. A loose sweater with a small stain near the collar that I'd never bothered to replace. I pulled my gray hair back in a simple ponytail. No makeup. No jewelry except my wedding band, which suddenly felt like a shackle. I looked exactly like what they thought I was, a woman with nothing. A burden. And then I waited. Trevor arrived first, driving his Lexus SUV that I knew cost $72,000 because Melissa had mentioned the price at least a dozen times. She stepped out wearing Louboutin heels and carrying a Birkin bag, her highlights fresh from a salon that charged $400 per appointment. "Diana." She air-kissed near my cheeks, her perfume something French and expensive overwhelming the space between us. "You look comfortable." Comfortable. The word hung like an insult wrapped in cellophane. Trevor hugged me, but it was brief, distracted. My son had his father's eyes, but none of the warmth they used to carry. "Hey, Mom, where's Dad? He'll be back shortly. Can I get you something to drink?" Oh, we're fine, Melissa said quickly, her gaze sweeping our living room as if cataloging everything that wasn't up to her standards. Actually, Diana, before Richard gets back, maybe we should talk? Woman to woman? My stomach tightened, but I nodded. She settled onto the sofa, crossing her legs with practiced elegance. Trevor stood behind her like a supporting player in her production. Melissa leaned forward, her expression arranged into what she probably thought was compassionate concern. Diana, I'm going to be direct because I care about you. Trevor and I have been talking, and we're worried. You're getting older, and you have no retirement savings, no income, no real safety net. Richard won't live forever, and when something happens to him, what will you do? I hadn't really thought. Exactly. You haven't thought about it. That's what concerns us. She glanced at Trevor, who nodded. We found a facility in Clearwater. Very clean, good activities. They have game nights, craft sessions. You'd make friends. A facility, I repeated. Assisted living, Trevor said, his voice careful. It's actually nice, Mom. We toured it. You toured it. We wanted to have options ready. Melissa pulled out her phone, swiping through photos. See? These are the common areas. This is a standard room small, but you don't need much space, right? It's $3,200 a month, which is very reasonable for the area. She said it like I should be grateful. Like $3,200 monthly was a bargain for putting me away in a room smaller than our current guest bathroom. Of course, Melissa continued, her voice taking on a rehearsed quality. Richard would cover the costs. We wouldn't expect you to pay, obviously, but Trevor and I want to make sure we're not draining Richard's retirement funds unnecessarily. He's earned his piece. There it was. The real concern, not my well-being. Their inheritance. What's the alternative? I asked softly. Melissa brightened. We're so glad you asked. Listen, you're still capable, right? Lots of women your age work. Target is hiring greeters. Or you could do something like grocery store cashier work. Even $1,500 a month would help offset costs. Show Richard you're still contributing. $1,500 a month. I made that in 3 days. Target, I said. Or anywhere, really. The point is, if you don't want the facility, you need to show initiative. Show that you're not just coasting. Her smile was wide and empty. Richard deserves a partner, not a dependent. You understand. I understood perfectly. The front door opened. Richard came in, still in his golf clothes, his face flushed from 18 holes and probably 3 scotches at the clubhouse. Everyone here? Good, good. He sat in his armchair, the expensive leather one Melissa had convinced him to buy for $4,000, and looked at me expectantly. Diana, Trevor, and Melissa have been kind enough to research options for your future. What do you think? I think, I said slowly, that I'd like to understand something first. Understand what? Richard's tone carried impatience. When you say I contribute nothing financially, what exactly do you mean? He blinked. Diana, you don't work. You haven't worked in decades. I've paid for this house, your food, your clothes, everything. And the money in our joint account? Where does that come from? My pension, my retirement savings. He said it like I was stupid for asking. Just yours. Well, yes, obviously. Melissa jumped in, her voice honey-sweet with condescension. Diana? No one's saying you haven't contributed in other ways. You kept a nice home. You raised Trevor. Those things have value, just not financial value in today's economy. We're talking about practical matters now. Practical matters, I echoed. Mom. Trevor stepped forward, and for a moment, I saw a flicker of the boy who used to bring me dandelions from the yard. This isn't meant to hurt you. We're trying to plan responsibly. Dad's 70, you're 62. Healthcare costs alone could bankrupt you both if something happens. The facility protects you. Protects me from what? From becoming destitute, Melissa said bluntly. Let's be honest, You have no skills for the current job market, no degree, no recent work history. If Richard dies, you'd have Social Security and whatever's left after settling his estate, which, frankly, might not be much given healthcare costs. We're trying to help you face reality. The rage was there, under my sternum, hot and patient, a river under ice. Richard leaned back, his fingers steepled. Diana, I've done some calculations. If you went to Clearwater Gardens, I could visit weekly. You'd have care if you need it, activities, meals prepared. It actually makes financial sense. And if I don't want to go, then you need to contribute, he said firmly. Get a job. Any job. Show me you're still capable of being a partner in this marriage instead of a liability. The word liability landed like a slap. Melissa pulled out a folder. She'd actually brought a folder and set it on the coffee table. These are applications we printed for you. Target, Walmart, Home Depot. They're all hiring seniors for part-time positions. We even highlighted the ones that offer employee discounts, which would help you save money on necessities. She'd highlighted them with a yellow marker. Like I was a child being shown how to complete homework. Trevor picked up the folder, holding it out to me. Mom, we're not trying to be cruel. We're trying to be practical. You've had a good run of being taken care of, but that can't last forever. This is about securing everyone's future. I didn't take the folder. Richard's expression hardened. Diana, you're being stubborn. This is for your own good. My own good. Yes. Christ, why are you making this difficult? He stood, his face reddening. I've given you everything for 37 years. I paid for this house. I paid for Trevor's education. I paid for every vacation, every meal, every piece of clothing on your back. And now, when I'm asking for basic cooperation in planning our future, you're acting like I'm the villain? I'm not acting like anything, I said quietly. I'm just trying to understand the value system we're using here. Melissa sighed, a sound of theatrical frustration. Diana, look, I'm going to be frank because someone needs to say this. You're not young. You're not educated. You're not bringing anything to the table except demands on Richard's resources. That might have been fine when you were raising Trevor, but those days are over. Now you need to decide. Are you going to be an adult and handle your situation? Or are you going to be a burden? The word again. Burden. Here's what I'm offering, Richard said, his voice taking on the commanding tone he used to use in boardrooms. I'll give you 2 weeks to find employment, something that brings in at least $1,500 monthly. If you can do that, we'll table the facility discussion. If you can't, or won't, then we move forward with Clearwater Gardens. I've already put down a deposit. The room went still. You've put down a deposit, I said. Fully refundable if you find work in 2 weeks. I'm not unreasonable, Diana. I'm trying to motivate you. Trevor shifted uncomfortably. Mom, it's really nice there. They have a garden. You like gardening. I looked at my son, who I'd rocked through nightmares and driven to soccer practice and helped with college applications. My son, who was now standing in my living room telling me I'd like the garden at my assisted living facility. Can I ask? I said, my voice still quiet, still calm. What you think fair market value is for 37 years of unpaid domestic labor? Richard scoffed. That's not how marriage works. No? Because it sounds like you've calculated exactly how it works. You've decided I've contributed nothing of financial value. You've decided my labor had no worth. You've decided I'm a liability. So I'm curious, what's the dollar amount where I would have earned the right to dignity? Diana, Trevor started. No, I really want to know. Melissa, you seem good with numbers. If I'd been paid minimum wage for cooking, cleaning, organizing this household, managing schedules, hosting your business dinners, Richard, what would that total? Melissa's smile had frozen. That's not really relevant, isn't it? You're telling me I have no financial value because I wasn't paid. But the work existed. Someone had to do it. If Richard had hired people to do what I did, what would it have cost? You're twisting this, Richard said. Am I? I stood, and something in my posture must have changed because they all went quiet. Let me tell you what I think happened here. I think you all saw a woman who appeared to have nothing, and you decided that meant she was nothing. You saw someone who didn't broadcast her worth, and you assumed she had none. Mom, that's not fair. Trevor, your wife just suggested I apply to be a Walmart greeter to prove my value. Your father has already put money down on warehousing me in a facility. Please don't tell me what's fair. I walked to my purse, pulled out my phone, and opened my banking app. Then I turned the screen toward them. This is my personal checking account, the one in my maiden name, Diana Hartwell. Current balance, $42,847. Richard's face went blank. This is my investment account, same name. Current balance, $297,153. Melissa's mouth actually opened. These are my quarterly earnings statements from the last year. I swiped through screenshots. I work as a freelance operations consultant. I've done it for 15 years. My average monthly income is $9,400. Last year, I grossed $127,000. I paid $31,000 in federal taxes alone. The silence was exquisite. But here's the interesting part, I continued, my voice steady and cold as winter stone. When I first started consulting, I told you about it, Richard. Remember? You laughed. You called it cute hobby money. So I stopped telling you. I opened separate accounts. I wanted to see who you'd be if you thought I needed you. Diana, Richard's voice cracked. And Trevor, you want to know something? That education your father likes to take credit for paying? I paid for your last 2 years of college. $47,000. When Richard's company had that rough patch in 2015 and he didn't want to touch his retirement accounts, I covered it. He never knew because I deposited it into our joint account in small increments and told him his pension payments must have increased. Trevor's face had gone white. Melissa, I turned to my daughter-in-law, who looked like she wanted the sofa to swallow her. That Birkin bag you're carrying? $18,000, if I'm recognizing the model correctly. Your car? $72,000. Your house? $840,000. And you've mentioned the mortgage payment is $4,300 monthly. So let's talk about financial responsibility and planning for the future. Have you and Trevor maxed out your retirement accounts this year? Do you have 6 months of expenses in emergency savings? Or are you spending money you haven't earned yet to impress people who don't care? She couldn't speak. I have $340,000 in liquid assets. I own this house, yes. Own it, Richard. Because I've been making the mortgage payments from my account for 3 years, while you thought your automatic withdrawal was handling it. I switched the banks. You never noticed. The house is paid off as of last month, and the deed is in both our names, which means I own half of $580,000 in real estate. I walked to where Richard sat, his face ashen, and looked down at him. You want to talk about burdens? About liabilities? I've carried this family financially for years, while you all patted me on the head and told me I contributed nothing. I let you believe I was powerless because I wanted to see your true nature. And today, you showed me everything I needed to know. Diana, please! Richard stood, reaching for me. I stepped back. Don't. You looked your wife of 37 years in the eye and told her to get a job at Target or go to a nursing home. You calculated my worth and found it lacking. You put money down on a room to store me like furniture you were tired of. I didn't know. That's not the defense you think it is, Richard. You didn't know because you didn't ask. You didn't care. You saw a woman who didn't perform her worth in ways you valued, and you decided she had none. I looked at Trevor. And you? You toured facilities to put away your mother without ever asking about her life, her plans, her wants. You stood there and let your wife tell me I had no skills, no value, no future. Mom, I'm sorry, I didn't. You didn't think. None of you thought, you just assumed. I picked up the folder Melissa had brought, the one with highlighted job applications, and set it deliberately on the coffee table. Here's what's going to happen. Richard, I'm going to a hotel tonight, and then I'm going to visit my attorney tomorrow morning. We're going to discuss our options. Whether this marriage is worth saving depends entirely on whether you can look me in the eye and see a partner instead of a dependent. Diana, don't be rash. Rash? I've spent 15 years quietly building financial independence, while you spent our marriage taking credit for achievements that weren't entirely yours. I'd say I'm being remarkably measured. I grabbed my purse, my phone, and my car keys. At the door, I turned back. Oh, and Melissa? That facility you found? Clearwater Gardens? I consulted for them 2 years ago. I saved them $200,000 annually by restructuring their supply chain operations. The director sent me a fruit basket last Christmas, so if I ever do end up there, it won't be as a resident. It'll be because they've hired me to fix their problems again. The look on her face was worth every humiliation of the last 2 hours. I walked out to my car, a 7-year-old Honda that I'd kept because I had nothing to prove to anyone, and drove away. In my rearview mirror, I could see them standing in the doorway. Richard, Trevor, and Melissa, frozen in the wreckage of their own assumptions. My phone rang before I'd reached the end of our street. Trevor. I answered. Mom. His voice was thick, broken. Mom, I'm so sorry. I'm so fucking sorry. I didn't know. We didn't know. No, I said calmly. You didn't ask. Please come back, please. We can talk about this. He's devastated. He's embarrassed. There's a difference. Mom. Trevor, answer me honestly. If I had no money, if I really was what you all thought I was, would you still be calling right now? Would you still be sorry? The pause was damning. That's what I thought, I said softly. I love you. I will always love you. But I need you to understand something. My worth was never dependent on my bank balance. It was always there. You just couldn't see it because you weren't looking. I hung up. At a red light, I checked my phone again. 7 missed calls. 4 texts. Richard, please come home. We need to talk. Trevor. Mom, please. I was wrong. Melissa. Diana, I apologize for any misunderstanding. Misunderstanding. As if the problem was communication and not character. I drove to the Marriott downtown, booked a suite, and ordered room service. That night, I slept better than I had in months. The next morning, I met with Patricia Chen, my attorney, and outlined my situation. She listened, made notes, and then smiled. Diana, you have options. Many options. The question is, what do you want? What did I want? I wanted to never again feel invisible in my own life. I wanted to be seen for what I was, not what people assumed. I wanted the people I loved to understand that value isn't always visible, that worth isn't always loud. I want clarity, I told Patricia. Whatever happens next, I want it built on truth. She nodded. Then that's what we'll get you. 3 days later, I had papers drawn up for legal separation. I hadn't filed them yet. That would be Richard's choice, whether he could see me clearly now or whether the damage was irreparable. Trevor called again on day 4. Mom, can we meet? Just us? We met at a coffee shop. He looked like he hadn't slept. His eyes shadowed and red. I've been thinking about what you said, he started. About whether I'd be sorry if you had no money. And, you're right. I don't think I would have called. I think I would have let Dad put you in that place and told myself it was for the best. At least he was honest. The thing is, he continued, his voice breaking, I remember who you used to be. When I was a kid, you were my hero. You knew everything, fixed everything. When did I stop seeing that? When did you become just Mom, the person in the background? When you started measuring people by their salary and their square footage, I said quietly. When you married someone who taught you that worth and wealth were the same thing. That's not fair to Melissa. Isn't it? Trevor. She walked into my home and told me I had no skills, no value, no future. She brought job applications like I was a charity case, and you stood there and let her. He flinched. I know, and I'm ashamed. Mom, I'm asking, begging for another chance. To see you. Really see you. I looked at my son, this man I'd raised, and saw both the boy who brought me dandelions and the man who'd toured nursing homes behind my back. One chance, I said finally. But Trevor, I need you to understand. I'm not who I was. I'm not going to be small anymore to make other people comfortable. I'm not going to hide my worth to test people's character. From now on, I'm exactly who I am, completely visible. And the people who can't handle that don't get to stay in my life. He nodded, tears streaming down his face. I understand. I'll do better. I swear I'll do better. Time would tell. As for Richard, I moved back home after a week, but I slept in the guest room. We went to counseling. He actually cried when he realized how close he'd come to losing everything that mattered for reasons that didn't. I thought I was the provider, he said in our third session. I thought that was my value. And if you didn't need me to provide, then what was I? My partner, I said simply. You were supposed to be my partner. We're still working on it. Some days are better than others. But he knows now. He knows what he nearly threw away. And me? I started a consulting firm. Made it official. Got a real office. Hired 2 associates. I'm done hiding in spare bedrooms and pretending I'm less than I am. Last month, Trevor and Melissa came for dinner. Melissa was quieter, more careful. She asked about my work, really asked, and listened to the answers. It felt like excavation, digging for something real beneath years of performance. At the end of the night, as they were leaving, Melissa pulled me aside. Diana, I owe you an apology. A real one. What I said that day was cruel and wrong. I thought, she stopped, gathered herself. I thought worth was something you could see, something you could wear or drive or live in. You taught me it's not. It wasn't everything, but it was something. After they left, Richard found me in the kitchen, cleaning up. You know what I realized, he said quietly. I spent 37 years married to you and never really asked what you did all day. Not really. I just assumed it was nothing important. And now? Now I'm married to a woman who earns more than I did at my peak and is smart enough to have hidden it from me to see who I really was. And I'm ashamed and grateful in equal measure. Ashamed of what you showed me. Grateful I'm still here despite it. Yes, I looked at my husband, this man I'd shared decades with, and saw both who he'd been and who he might still become. Don't waste the lesson, Richard. I won't, he said. And something in his voice made me believe him. That was 6 months ago. These days, I wake up at 6, go for my hike, and come home to my home office, the one Richard helped me renovate. The one with my name on a real brass plate outside the door. Dr. Diana Hartwell, operations consultant. I finally got that PhD last year. Distance learning. Another thing I did quietly. Trevor calls weekly now. Real calls, where he asks real questions. Melissa started her own business party planning and asked my advice on operations management. I gave it. And Richard? He volunteers at the library now, teaching financial literacy to seniors. So many of them hid their worth, he told me last week. Just like you did. And their families have no idea who they really are. Then teach them to ask, I said. I am. He paused. Diana, thank you. For what? For not filing those papers, for giving me the chance to see you. I smiled. I didn't do it for you. I did it for me. Because I'm worth the life I want, with or without you in it. I know, he said quietly. That's exactly why I'm grateful. Last week, I got a call from Clearwater Gardens. They wanted to hire me for another consultation. I said yes, scheduled it, and on my way out, I mentioned it to Richard. That nursing home? He asked, his face paling. The facility you put a deposit on, yes. They need help restructuring their memory care unit operations. It's a $50,000 contract. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, will you tell them about what I almost did? No, I said. That's between us. But Richard, every time I walk in there, I'll remember. And so will you. I deserve that. You do. I went to that consultation last Tuesday. The director remembered me, shook my hand warmly, and introduced me to their board. Diana Hartwell is the best operations consultant we've ever worked with, she told them. She sees solutions where everyone else sees problems. I thought about target job applications with highlighted sections, about folders full of pity and condescension, about being told to get a job or accept my room, and then I did what I do best. I solved their problems, earned my fee, and went home to a life I built myself. Some people think revenge is about destruction, but the sweetest revenge isn't destroying your enemies. It's building a life so complete, so whole, so undeniably successful that their judgment becomes irrelevant. I don't need Richard to understand my worth anymore. I don't need Trevor's validation or Melissa's approval. I know who I am, and that knowledge, that's the real power they tried to take from me and couldn't, because I never gave it away, and I never will.